Notice, this book is produced in Daisy Digital Talking Book, Daisy Text only, and in print format for people with bona fide print disability by V4U. This book is created for special distribution for the print disabled in accordance with Section 52 Clause 1 Subclause ZB of the Copyright Act of India as amended in 2012. The Daisy Digital Talking Book, Daisy Text only, Braille book is permitted to be used only by persons with print disabilities. Any further reproduction, distribution to any person without a print disability or any commercial use of this book is strictly prohibited and will be subject to a legal action.
A Pact with the Sun. Supplementary Reader in English for Class 6. Contents are 1. A Tale of Two Birds. 2. The Friendly Mongoose. 3. The Shepherd's Treasure. 4. The Old Clock Shop. 5. Tansen. 6. The Monkey and the Crocodile. 7. The Wonder Called Sleep. 8. A Pact with the Sun. 9. What Happened to the Reptiles. 10. A Strange Wrestling Match. Chapter number 1. A Tale of Two Birds. A mother bird and her two young ones lived in a forest. The mother was killed in a storm, and the young birds were separated from each other. Each found a different home. So the story starts. There once lived a bird and her two newborn babies in a forest. They had a nest in a tall, shady tree, and there the mother bird took care of her little ones day and night. One day, there was a big storm. There was thunder, lightning, and rain, and the wind blew down many trees. The tall tree in which the birds lived also came down. A big, heavy branch hit the nest and killed the bird. Fortunately for the baby birds, a strong wind blew them away to the other side of the forest. One of them came down near a cave where a gang of robbers lived. The other landed outside a rish's ashram a little distant away. Days passed and the baby birds became big birds. One day, the king of the country came to the forest to hunt. He saw a deer and rode after it. It ran deep into the forest, followed by the king. Soon, the king lost his way and didn't know where he was. He rode on for a long time till he came to the other side of the forest. Very tired by now, he got off his horse and sat down under a tree that stood near a cave. Suddenly he heard a voice cry out, "Quick, hurry up! There's someone under the tree. Come and take his jewels and his horse. Hurry, or else he will slip away." The king was amazed. He looked up and saw a big brown bird on the tree under which he was sitting. He also heard faint noises issuing from the cave. He quickly got onto his horse and rode away as fast as he could. Soon he came to a clearing which looked like an ashram. It was the rish's ashram. The king tied his horse to a tree and sat down in its shade. Suddenly he heard, a gentle voice announced, "Welcome to the ashram, sir. Please go inside and rest. The rishi will be back soon. There's some cold water in the pot. Please make yourself comfortable." The king looked up and saw a big brown bird in the tree. He was amazed. "This one looks like the other bird outside the cave," he said to himself loudly. "You are right, sir," answered the bird. "He is my brother, but he has made friends with robbers. He now talks as they do. He doesn't talk to me anymore." Just then, the rishi entered the ashram. "Welcome, sir," he said to the king. "Please come inside and make yourself at home. You look tired. Rest for a while. Then you can share my food." The king told the rishi the story of the two birds and how each had behaved so differently though they looked so alike. "The forest is full of surprises," he said. The holy man smiled and said, "After all, one is known by the company one keeps. That bird has always heard the talk of robbers. He imitates them and talks about robbing people. This one has repeated what he has always heard. He welcomes people to the ashram. Now come inside and rest. I will tell you more about this place and these birds." So with this, the story comes to an end. Now time for some questions. 1. How did the two baby birds get separated? 2. Where did each of them find a home? 3. What did the first bird say to the stranger? 4. What did the second bird say to him? 5. How did the rishi explain the different ways in which the birds behaved? 6. Which one of the following sums up the story best? Bit 1. A bird in hand is worth two in the bush. Bit 2. One is known by the company one keeps. Bit 3. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Chapter number 2. The Friendly Mongoose. A farmer, his wife, and their small child lived in a village. There was also a baby mongoose in the house, who they believed would be their son's companion and friend in future. One day, the farmer and his wife went out, leaving the child alone with the mongoose. So the story starts. Once a farmer and his wife lived in a village with their small son. They loved him very much. "We must have a pet," the farmer said to his wife one day. "When our son grows up, he will need a companion. This pet will be our son's companion." His wife liked the idea. One evening, the farmer brought with him a tiny mongoose. "It's a baby mongoose," said his wife, "but will soon be fully grown. He will be a friend to our son." Both the baby and the mongoose grew. In 5 or 6 months, the mongoose had grown to its full size, a lovely animal with two shining black eyes and a bushy tail. The farmer's son was still a baby in the cradle, sleeping and crying alternately. One day, the farmer's wife wanted to go to the market. She fed the baby and rocked him to sleep in his little cradle. Picking up the basket, she said to her husband, "I'm off to the bazaar. The baby is sleeping. Keep an eye on him. Frankly, I don't like to leave the child alone with the mongoose." "You need not be afraid," said the farmer. "The mongoose is a friendly animal. It's as sweet as our baby, and they are the best of friends, you know." The wife went away, and the farmer, having nothing to do in the house, decided to go out and take a look at his fields not far away. He ran into some friends on the way back and didn't return for quite some time. The farmer's wife finished her shopping and came back home with a basket full of groceries. She saw the mongoose sitting outside as if waiting for her. On seeing her, he ran to welcome her. As was customary, the farmer's wife took one look at the mongoose and screamed. "Blood!" she cried. The face and paws of the mongoose were smeared with blood. "You wicked animal! You killed my baby!" she screamed hysterically. She was blind with rage, and with all her strength brought down the heavy basket full of groceries on the blood-smeared mongoose and ran inside to the child's cradle. The baby was fast asleep, but on the floor lay a black snake, torn and bleeding. In a flash, she realized what had happened. She ran out looking for the mongoose. "Oh, you saved my child! You killed the snake! What have I done?" she cried, touching the mongoose, who lay dead and still, unaware of her sobbing. The farmer's wife, who had acted hastily and rashly, stared long at the dead mongoose. Then she heard the baby crying. Wiping her tears, she went in to feed him. It's a story from the Panchatantra. So with this, the story comes to an end. Now time for some questions. 1. Why did the farmer bring a baby mongoose into the house? 2. Why didn't the farmer's wife want to leave the baby alone with that mongoose? 3. What was the farmer's comment on his wife's fears? 4. Why did the farmer's wife strike the mongoose with her basket? 5. Did she repent her hasty action? How does she show her repentance? Do you have a pet, a cat or a dog? If not, would you like one? How would you look after it? Are you for or against keeping birds in a cage as pets? Chapter number 3. The Shepherd's Treasure. A poor shepherd once lived in Iran. Though uneducated, he was very wise and helpful. The king decided to meet him in disguise. So the story starts. In a village in Iran, there once lived a shepherd. He was very poor. He did not have even a small cottage of his own. He had never been to school or learnt to read and write, for there were very few schools in those days. Though poor and uneducated, this shepherd was very wise. He understood people's sorrows and troubles and helped them face their problems with courage and common sense. Many people came to him for advice. Soon he became famous for his wisdom and friendly nature. The king of that country heard about him and thought of meeting him. Disguised as a shepherd and riding on a mule, one day the king came to the cave where the wise shepherd lived. As soon as the shepherd saw the traveler coming towards the cave, he rose to welcome him. He took the tired traveler inside the cave, gave him water to drink, and a share of his own meagre meal. The king rested for the night in the cave and was greatly impressed by the shepherd's hospitality and wise conversation. Though still tired, the king decided to depart the next morning. He said, "Many thanks for your kindness to a poor traveler. I have a long way to go. Permit me to leave." Looking straight into the eyes of his guest, the shepherd replied, "Thank you, your majesty, for paying me the compliment of a visit." The king was astonished as well as pleased. "He is indeed very wise," he thought to himself. "I need people like him to work for me." And the king appointed this humble shepherd the governor of a small district. Although he rose to power and dignity, the shepherd remained as humble as ever. People loved and honored him for his wisdom, sympathy, and goodness. He was kind and just to one and all. His fame as a fair and wise governor soon spread throughout the country. Now the governors of other provinces grew terribly jealous of him and began to talk to the king against him. They said, "He is very dishonest and keeps for himself part of the money that he collects as a tax from the people. Why did he always carry with him?" They added, "An iron chest. Perhaps he carried in it the treasure that he had secretly collected." "After all," they said mockingly, "he was an ordinary shepherd and could behave no better." At first the king did not pay attention to these reports. But how long could he ignore these governors and their endless stories about the shepherd? One thing was certain, the king discovered. The new governor did carry an iron chest with him all the time. So one day, the new governor was summoned to the palace. He came riding on his camel, and to everyone's delight, the famous iron chest was there, fastened securely behind him on the camel's back. Now the king was angry. He thundered, "Why did you always carry that iron chest with you? What does it contain?" The governor smiled. He asked his servant to bring in the chest. How eagerly the people standing around waited for the shepherd to be found out. But how great was their astonishment, and even of the king himself, when the chest opened. No gold or silver or jewels, but an old blanket was all that came out. Holding it up proudly, the shepherd said, "This, my dear master, is my only treasure. I always carry it with me." "But why do you carry such an ordinary blanket with you?" "Surely you are the governor of a district," the king asked. To which the shepherd replied with quiet dignity, "This blanket is my oldest friend. It will still protect me If at any time your majesty should wish to take away my new cloaks, how pleased the king was, and how embarrassed the jealous governors became to hear the wise man's reply. Now they knew that the shepherd was indeed the humblest and the wisest man in the land. The king made him the governor of a much bigger district that very day. This story is an Iranian folk tale. Now it has come to an end, so time for some questions. 1. The shepherd hadn't been to school because Bit 1. He was very poor. Bit 2. There were very few schools in those days. Bit 3. He wasn't interested in studies. Choose the right answer. 2. Who visited the shepherd one day and why? 3. Why did the other governors grow jealous of the shepherd? 4. Why was the new governor called to the palace? 5. Why was everyone delighted to see the iron chest on the camel's back? 6. Bit 1. What did the iron chest contain? Bit 2. Why did the shepherd always carry it? Bit 3. Is it an example of shepherd's humility or wisdom or both? 7. How did the king reward the new governor? Chapter number 4. The Old Clock Shop. It's Christmas Eve and closing time for shops. Ray's old clock shop is still open. 2 shoppers call at this late hour. Christmas Eve had arrived. At last minute, shoppers were going home. A thick white sheet of snow lay over Salt Lake City, USA. Yet the lights were still burning in the old clock shop as Ray, its old, deep owner, worked on a clock he had sold that day. Having finished his work, Ray stood up and was on his way to the back room when a cold rush of air from the front door hit the back of his neck. He turned to meet a last-minute shopper, but his old wise eyes told him that this was not a shopper. He saw 2 men, one in his 20s and the other closer to 50. The younger man remained at the door. The older man approached the counter with no sign of friendliness in his eyes. Ray was able to hide his growing fear as he slowly pushed a notepad and a pencil across the counter. He smiled at the unfriendly face, then pointed to his ears and shook his head from side to side. A quick look of surprise changed the man's face as he studied the notepad, then turned and said something to his friend. Ray used the chance to look closely at the man, paying attention to the shape of a gun and a restless hand in the man's right coat pocket. Anger boiled within him, but it was kept down by an inner voice that said, "Be still." He wrote on the notepad, "May I help you?" For the first time, the older man looked directly at Ray and smiled, a cruel, mocking smile. They both understood why he was there, why his friend remained at the door. They looked like men who were down on their luck and were now ready to try something they would later be sorry about. The clocks ticked on. Ray calmly wrote another message. Have you come to pick up a clock or watch? Then he pointed to the lone board filled with hanging clocks and pocket watches. He was not a pawnbroker, but at the same time couldn't say no to the needy people who placed their old watches or clocks before him for anything they could get. He loaned more than he should. They would be there when the owners wanted them back, at the same price he had paid with no interest. Then the older man seemed to feel a little easy, took out his hand from his pocket and quickly looked at the watch on his wrist. How much will you give me for this? The man wrote. Ray noticed a little shame in the grey eyes looking at him. The watch was nothing special, and yet had great powers. It was something to exchange, a way out of a bad situation. Knowing that great need had brought the man to his shop in the first place, Ray asked, how much do you need for it? The reply came back on the notepad, whatever it's worth. Ray reached into his cash box, pulled out a $50 note, and passed it into the man's hand. As they shook hands, Ray looked into the man's eyes. They seemed to thank you. They both knew the watch wasn't worth that much. Before turning to leave, the man wrote, I will be back to pick it up as soon as I can. Merry Christmas. The little story ended on the half hour with the clocks striking all together. The timepieces, which had been looking on silently all the while, rang out the time with such feeling that even Ray thought he could hear them. Their sweet musical message was filled with hope. The timeless message of peace on earth, goodwill towards all, was felt by the three men who stood in the old clock shop. Questions. 1. What made Ray think the visitor was not really a shopper? 2. Why do you think he had come to the shop? 3. How did Ray communicate with him? 4. What do you think the man said to his friend who waited at the door? 5. Ray was not a pawnbroker. Why then did he lend money to people in exchange of their old watches and clocks? 6. The watch was nothing special and yet had great powers. In what sense did it have great powers? 7. Do you think the man would ever come back to pick up the watch? 8. When did the unfriendly face of the visitor turn truly friendly? Chapter number 5. Tansen. Tansen was the only child of his parents, naughty but talented. He imitated the calls of birds and animals perfectly. Once he tried to frighten a group of travelers by roaring like a tiger. So the story begins. You may have heard the name of Tansen, the greatest musician our country has produced. A singer called Mukandan Mishra and his wife lived in Behat near Gwalior. Tansen was their only child. It is said that he was a naughty child. Often he ran away to play in the forest and soon learned to imitate perfectly the calls of birds and animals. A famous singer named Swami Haridas was once traveling through the forest with his disciples. Tired, the group settled down to rest in a shady grove. Tansen saw them. Strangers in the forest, he said to himself. It will be fun to frighten them. He hid behind a tree and roared like a tiger. The little group of travelers scattered in fear, but Swami Haridas called them together. Don't be afraid, he said. Tigers are not always dangerous. Let us look for this one. Suddenly, one of his men saw a small boy hiding behind a tree. There are no tigers here, master, he said. Only this naughty kid. Swami Haridas did not punish him. He went to Tansen's father and said, your son is very naughty. He is also very talented. I think I can make him a good singer. Tansen was 10 years old when he went away with Swami Haridas. He lived with him for 11 years, learning music, and became a great singer. At about this time, his parents died. Mukundan Mishra's dying wish was that Tansen should visit Muhammad Ghaus of Gwalior. Muhammad Ghaus was a holy man. Mukundan Mishra had long been devoted to him and often visited him. While living in Gwalior with Muhammad Ghaus, Tansen was often taken to the court of Rani Mrignani, who was also a great musician herself. There he met and married one of the ladies of the court. Her name was Hussaini. Hussaini also became Swami Haridas' disciple. Tansen and Hussaini had 5 children who were all very musical. Tansen had by this time become very famous. Sometimes he sang before Emperor Akbar, who was so impressed by him that he insisted Tansen should join his court. Tansen went to Akbar's court in 1556 and soon became a great favorite of the emperor. Akbar would call upon Tansen to sing at any time during the day or night. Quite often he would just walk into Tansen's house to hear him practice. He also gave him many presents. Some of the courtiers became jealous of Tansen. We shall never be able to rest till Tansen is ruined, they declared. One of the courtiers, Saukat Mian, had a bright idea. Let us make him sing Raga Deepak, he said. How will that help us? Asked another man. If Raga Deepak is properly sung, it makes the air so hot that the singer is burnt to ashes. Tansen is a very good singer. If he sings Raga Deepak, he will die and we will be rid of him. Saukat Mian went to Akbar and said, we don't think Tansen is a great singer. Let us test him. Tell him to sing Raga Deepak. Only the greatest singers can sing it properly. Of course he can sing it. Tansen can sing anything, Akbar said. Tansen was afraid, but he could not disobey the king. Very well, my lord, he said, but give me time to prepare myself. Tansen went home. He had never been more downcast and unhappy. I can sing the raga, he told his wife, but the hit it gives off will not only set the lamps alight, it will also burn me to ashes. Then he had an idea. If someone sings Raga Megha at the same time and sings it properly, it will bring rain. Perhaps our daughter Saraswati and her friend Rupvati could do it, he said. He taught the two girls to sing Raga Megha. They practiced night and day for 2 weeks. Tansen told them, "You must wait till the lamps start burning and then you start singing." The legend goes that on the appointed day the whole town assembled to hear Tansen sing Ragadipak. When he began to sing, the air became warm. Soon people in the audience were bathed in perspiration. The leaves on the trees dried up and fell to the ground. As the music continued, birds fell dead because of the heat, and the waters in the rivers began to boil. People cried out in terror as flames shot up out of nowhere and lighted the lamp. At once Saraswati and Rupvati began to sing Ragamegha. The sky clouded over and the rain came down. Tansen was saved. The story goes that he was very ill after this, and Akbar was sorry that he had caused him so much suffering. He punished Tansen's enemies. When Tansen got well, the entire city rejoiced. Tansen remained Akbar's court singer till 1585 when he died. He composed several new ragas. Tansen's tomb is in Gwalior. It is a place of pilgrimage for musicians. So with this, the story comes to an end. Now time for some questions. 1. Why did Swami Haridas said Tansen was talented? 2. Why did Akbar ask Tansen to join his court? 3. How do we know that Akbar was fond of Tansen? Give 2 reasons. 4. What did the other courtiers feel about Tansen? 5. Bit 1. What happens if Raga Deepak is sung properly? Bit 2. Why did Tansen's enemies want him to sing Raga? 6. Why did Tansen agree to sing Raga Deepak? 7. Bit 1. What steps did he take to save himself? Bit 2. Did his plan work? How? Are you interested in music? Do you like classical music? Name a few distinguished Indian musicians. Chapter number 6. The Monkey and the Crocodile. A monkey lived in a fruit tree on the bank of a river. He made friends with a crocodile, gave him delicious fruits to eat, and sent some for his wife. They met regularly and talked. The monkey in the tree and the crocodile on the ground. So the story begins. Once on the bank of a river, a monkey made a home for himself in a tree laden with fruits. He lived in it happily, eating to its heart's content the fruit of his choice. The monkey was happy but lonely and wanted a companion to talk to and share the fruits with. But there was no one around, not even another monkey, till one day a crocodile appeared on the riverside. "Hello there," said the monkey. "Do you live in this river? Would you like to eat some fruit?" "Good morning," replied the crocodile politely. "I did come here in search of food for myself and my wife. Nice of you to offer me fruit." The monkey plucked some of the nearest branches and threw them down. The crocodile found them delicious. "Thanks," he said. "May I have some on my next visit?" "Certainly, as many as you like, and some for your wife too," said the monkey. "Do come again. I'm rather lonely here." The crocodile visited the monkey regularly and ate the fruits which his host threw down. He took some home for his wife. The monkey and the crocodile were now the best of friends. They talked and were never tired of talking. They talked about birds and animals, about the villages nearby and the difficulties villagers faced in raising good crops for lack of rain. One day the crocodile stayed with the monkey longer than usual. His wife was annoyed, waiting and waiting, managing the little crocodiles that had just been hatched. She said, "Who is this friend of yours you are so fond of?" "Oh, he is a very nice monkey," he replied. "He lives on a fruit tree. He sends fruits for you every day. You don't expect me to climb trees, do you?" "A nice monkey, I'm sure," replied the wife with obvious sarcasm. "If you asked me, this monkey should be my food. I want to eat his heart so much." "What a foolish thing to say," shouted the crocodile. "I can't kill a friend, though I won't mind a monkey occasionally for a change of taste." "You bring him here," ordered the wife. "I want to see him." "So you can eat him?" "Never," declared her husband. His wife was furious and dived in to hide herself at bottom of the river, leaving the little ones to pester their father. The crocodile was in a serious dilemma. He loved his wife and was very fond of his friend too. Finally, he decided to be on the side of his wife. She was his life partner after all. "I know it's a sin to betray a friend, but I have no choice," he said to himself. "I will invite the monkey home and hope for the best." "My wife wants you over for a meal, dear friend," said the crocodile when he visited the monkey next. "You must come home with me today." "With pleasure," said the monkey. "I'm no swimmer, but I can ride on your back." And they set out. In the middle of the river, when the current was the strongest, the crocodile could no longer hide his intention. "Sorry, my friend," he said hesitatingly, "but I have to go under water now. I have brought you here to kill you. My wife cannot survive without eating your heart. Goodbye." The monkey was scared and distressed, but he was sensible and clever like all monkeys. He kept a cool head. Calmly he said, "I would do anything for you and your family. You are my only friend after all. What is a monkey's heart compared with the life of a crocodile's wife? But how foolish could you be? Why didn't you tell me before? I would have brought my heart along." "But where is your heart?" asked the crocodile innocently. "I thought you carried it all the time." "Of course not. It's there on the tree. Let's swim back at once and get it. Your wife must be waiting," replied the monkey, gaining confidence. "Oh dear, what a mistake," hissed the crocodile. They laughed loudly as the crocodile took a full turn to reach the tree. On the river bank, the monkey jumped on to the tree and heaved a deep sigh of relief. He plucked a fruit or two from the nearest branch and throwing them down said, "Let your wife have some fruit rather than my heart. Fresh fruits are good for mind and body. Goodbye, friend, and if you don't mind, we won't meet again." The crocodile, sadder and wiser, shed a few tears, which were genuine, and turned back to go home. He was in a hurry to tell his wife a thing or two. This is a story from the Panchatantra. Now the story has come to an end. Time for some questions. 1. The monkey was happy living in the fruit tree, but his happiness was not complete. What did he miss? 2. What did the two friends generally talk about? 3. Why was the crocodile's wife annoyed with her husband one day? 4. Why was the crocodile unwilling to invite his friend home? 5. What did the crocodile tell the monkey midstream? 6. How did the monkey save himself? 7. What does the last sentence of the story suggest? What would the crocodile tell his wife? Chapter number 7. The wonder called sleep. Our body and brain recover from fatigue after a good sleep. We dream while sleeping, but we do not always remember our dreams. During sleep, our heartbeat becomes slower and our temperature and blood pressure go down. We know enough about what sleep is, though we don't know what exactly causes sleep. Sleep is a state of rest, an unconscious rest. When we sleep, our body recovers from fatigue caused by the day's activities. After a good sleep and the rest that it gives, we become alert and active again, ready for the normal activities of the day. When we wake up in the morning, it is not always possible for us to remember what happened when we were asleep. We may remember a dream, but the rest of our sleep was a kind of darkness in which nothing seems to have taken place. Several things happen to our body while we are sleeping. As we sink deeper into sleep, our muscles relax more and more. Our heartbeat becomes slower. Our temperature and blood pressure go down. The ever-active brain also slows down so that we can't think or act consciously, but we dream. When we wake up, our temperature and blood pressure rise to normal. Our heartbeat and breathing also become normal, and we are fully awake and have forgotten most, if not at all, the dreams that we had while sleeping. What is a dream? It is an activity of the mind that takes place when we are asleep. Some dreams are probable while others are not. That only means that many of the things that happen in dreams could happen when we are awake. Others could not. Dreams seem to be important for several reasons. One is that a dream can help us to sleep through noise or other disturbances. For example, the alarm clock rings, but our mind causes us to dream that the telephone or doorbell is ringing and that we are awake and answering it. Certain doctors have found that one's dream often reveal a great deal about one's problem, and that, if understood correctly, they can provide a key to the solution of those problems. But we must remember one thing: dreams cannot be used as a way to tell the future. They simply can never tell the future. Sleep is the most common experience, but how many of us really think about the wonder and power of sleep? Many poets have written beautiful poems about sleep. Here is one in which the poet is describing the experience of falling asleep. Listen to it. Lights out. I have come to the borders of sleep, the unfathomable deep, forest where all must lose their way, however straight or winding, soon or late. They cannot choose. There is not any book or face of dearest look that I would not turn from now. To go into the unknown, I must enter and leave alone. I know not how. Written by Edward Thomas. So, with this, the story has come to an end. Now, time for some questions. 1. What is the most obvious advantage of sleep? 2. What happens to our body when we sleep? 3. Define a dream in your own words. 4. Why are dreams important? Mention 2 reasons. 5. Why has sleep been called a wonder? 6. Describe briefly to the class an improbable dream you have ever had. Grandmothers and mothers sing nice little song while rocking little ones to sleep. Such a song is called lullaby. Do you remember a lullaby in your own language? Tell in class in English what the lullaby says. Chapter number 8. A Pact with the Sun. Saida's mother has not received proper medical treatment for her complaints. She is denied healthy food, sunshine, and fresh air. At last, she consults a good physician who gives her effective medicine and sound advice. So the story begins. Saida's mother had been ailing for a long time. Fever, cough, body ache, painful joints, and what not. Treated by a variety of physicians for weeks, she often showed signs of improvement but soon relapsed into her old sick self, one complaint substituted by another. Though weak and colorless, she was forbidden normal food and was under strict orders to remain perpetually confined to her small, dingy room with doors and windows fastened, deprived of sunshine and fresh air. When she became critical, her relatives and neighbors persuaded her to consult a specialist even though his fee was likely to be high. Life is more precious than money, they said. Saida's mother was poor, but she heeded their advice and sold a few trinkets to pay the doctor's fee and the cost of medicine. The doctor came in a few days and examined her and prescribed effective but costly medicine. To the question as to what she should eat, he said, anything you wish to eat, chapati, vegetables, milk, fruits, etc. In addition to all this, he added emphatically, leave this dark hovel and occupy a bigger room with doors and windows open. Sit in the sun every morning from 8 to 9. Sunshine and fresh air, he concluded, are more important than medicine. The doctor and his advice became a subject of noisy commentary among all present. Some favored while others opposed it. Exposure to sun and air for someone afflicted with a chronic cough was dangerous, an experienced lady declared. A younger neighbor nearby quarreled with her over this. Too exhausted to participate in the debate, Saida's mother remained quiet but determined to follow the doctor's advice. "Forget the consequences," she said at last. "I will carry out his instructions to the letter. Move my bed into the next room and let me sit in the sun on my charpoy for an hour daily." It so happened that the sky remained overcast next morning. The same was the case the following day. Saida's mother was dejected. She muttered, "O Lord of mine, why have you ordered the sun to remain hidden? How will I even be cured?" Saida was playing with her doll nearby and she heard her mother's lament but kept calm. Later in the afternoon, when she stumbled on a spot of pale sunshine in the courtyard, she ran to her mother to say the sun was there. "No, no," said everybody present. "It's too late and chilly. Your mother can't see it out there." Disheartened, Saida returned to her doll. There was no sun really, except for its last remnant entangled in the top branches of the family mango tree. Now children have at their command a secret language, foreign to grown-ups altogether, in which they fluently communicate with trees, flowers, animals, the sun, and the moon, perhaps even with the Almighty. Using that special language, Saida addressed her remark to the last departing ray of the sun. "Dearest sister, do come tomorrow with lots of warmth and brightness. You see, my mother is ill and needs your help." "Surely," answered the light. "Don't look unhappy. We will be there at the fixed hour." Next day, early in the morning, when the spiritly sun rays embellished themselves for their journey down the earth, the sun said, "It's our day off again. We are staying up here. The road to earth is blocked by an army of thick, mucky clouds. The little rays so much wanted to go down for a lark, but they remained quiet. One of them, though, who had made a pact with little Saida, said, 'Sir, I can't stay back. I have given my word to Saida, whose mother is ill and needs our help. I will pierce through the clouds to reach Saida's courtyard. How else will her mother be cured?' Hearing this, all the rays nearly staged a revolt against their father, the sun. 'Fancy staying back again,' they said in a single voice. 'What will the people of the earth say about us? That we of the heavens have turned liars?' The sun relented. 'Please yourselves,' he said. 'Mind your clothes, though the clouds are mucky. Never mind our clothes. We can always change. But go we must.' And the rays rushed towards the earth. The clouds stood guard between them and Saida's courtyard. The little rays focused their heat, and they had enough of it on a battalion of clouds which had to flee from its post. The rays got through, shooting past the bewildered clouds. They were already late. Saida saw the whole host of them approaching, and her heart leapt with joy. She shouted, "Amma, Amma, the sun is here, come out." The old lady's eyes welled up with tears of gratitude. Her charpoy was placed in the courtyard, and she sat on it for an hour, reclining against bolsters. It had been months since she had felt the sun on her hands and face and breathed in fresh air. She thought she was in a new world. Though pale, her face glowed and her eyes shone bright. She saw her child, too, bathed in sunlight, and kissed her. The morning air brought in a new fragrance from nearby flowers. The birds chanted a new tune. Saida's mother felt better already. She is fully recovered now, but she still follows the doctor's advice: an hour of sunlight and lungs full of fresh air every day. Written by Zakir Hussain, translated from Urdu and slightly modified. With this, the story comes to an end. Now, time for some questions. 1. What did the physicians ask Saida's mother to do to get well? Did their advice help her? If not, why? 2. What did the specialist prescribe in addition to medicine? 3. What did Saida tell the sun rays to do? 4. Why were the sun rays keen to go down to the earth the next day? What is your own formula for keeping good health? Who would you recommend to a patient in your neighborhood? The physicians contacted first or the specialist contacted next? Give reasons for your choice. When would you make a pact with the sun? When you are going on a picnic or when you are playing a cricket match? Think of other occasions. Chapter number 9. What happened to the reptiles? Pambupati is a peaceful village inhabited by a variety of people. Prem, the narrator of the story, flees his village under unfortunate conditions to reach Pambupati by chance. An old resident of the village looks after him and tells him an interesting story. So the story starts. You may not believe this story, but I can tell you it is true because I have been to Pambupati, a village on the edge of the jungle. It is on a cliff, and the vast forest stretches below like a mossy green carpet. There are many kinds of people in the village: dark, fair, tall, short. They speak many languages. Some eat meat, some don't. Some pray in a small temple at the edge of the forest. Others pray in a mosque some miles away. My name is Prem, and I live many hundred miles away from Pambupati. I had heard about the village, but I had never been here. Then, last year, something terrible happened. The people of my own village went mad, far, far away in a place they have never even been to. A temple or mosque had been burnt down, and they went mad. They started fighting with one another. Some had to run away in the middle of the night, and at 3 in the morning, as I lay in my house, half awake to the sounds of hate and violence, there was a fire. Many houses were burnt down in the fire. One of them was mine. I managed to grab a few clothes, some coins, my little Ganesh statue, and I ran. I ran for a day and a night, resting whenever my legs would not carry me any further. I jumped onto a train, then on a bus. No tickets, never mind. Everyone seemed to be running. Finally, I found myself in Pambupati, and I saw some villagers gathered near a well. I ran to them, and before I could say a thing, I fainted. When I opened my eyes, I saw an old man with white hair, white beard, and shining black eyes bending over me. For the next few days, he looked after me, putting food in my mouth and bringing me sweet, cool water from the stream. He rubbed my feet gently and made the pain go away. Neighbors, strangers, everyone came to visit me. Tell me, grandfather, I said to him one day, I have never seen people like the villagers here. In my village, people fight with those who pray to another god. But here, this seems a very strange place. Prem, replied the old man, I will tell you the story of Pambupati. You can take this story back to your village. Maybe it will heal some of its wounds and dry some of its sores. Oh, grandfather, I said anxiously, don't say that. What I have seen in my village makes me burn with shame. I never want to go back there. But that's exactly why you must go back, he said in a soft voice. I kept quiet. I didn't want to argue with him, and I wanted to hear his story. It happened a long time ago, he began. So long ago that there were no schools and no teachers. Children lived in caves with their parents and helped them to collect fruit and berries from the forest. At that time, there were no tigers or panthers or elephants in Pampupati forest. There were only reptiles, many kinds of reptiles. Now you know what reptiles are: snakes, crocodiles, turtles, lizards. And you know that a reptile has scales on its body and it lays eggs. Every month, the reptiles of Pambupati had a big meeting. Everyone came: the pretty, excited snakes, the slow, thoughtful tortoises, the clever, quick lizards, and the moody crocodiles, grumpy because they were out of water. The president of these meetings was Makara, the biggest crocodile of the forest. All the animals thought he was very important. When someone is strong and powerful, you know it is difficult not to go along with what he says or does. Now, one day, a strange thing happened. It was a week before one of the monthly meetings. Makara sent a letter to the tortoises asking them not to come to the meeting. Ahishte, the big old star tortoise with black and yellow pictures on his shell, was angry. What does this mean? He shouted. How dare they? But not one of the tortoises had the courage to attend the meeting. They were so few, the others so many. Before the meeting, the giant Makara polished his teeth with the red flowers of the tree by the river till they sparkled. Everyone was waiting for him at the meeting place. Brothers and sisters, he began, all the reptiles, even the beautiful king cobras, stopped talking. Makara continued his speech. I have decided that we don't need the tortoises. I have told them not to come today. Brothers and sisters, can you tell me why we don't like the tortoises? The reptiles looked this way and that. They felt very uncomfortable. The snakes hissed anxiously. The lizards wriggled their tails. The crocodiles opened their jaws even wider. But, said one little lizard, no buts, shouted Makara. There was silence. I think, said a baby crocodile. No, I thinks, screamed Makara so loudly that the fruit in the tree above him rained down. After that, no one had the courage to speak. Makara cleared his throat and showed a few more teeth. Well, he said, I will tell you why we don't like the tortoises. They are so slow, so stupid. They even carry their houses on their backs. Who ever heard of such a stupid thing? Now, you lizards, you live in trees. Would you ever carry a tree on your back? Would you? Small, frightened voices answered together. No, we wouldn't. But no buts. Now listen. I have told the tortoises that they will have to move out of Pambupati. When they go, we will have more of everything. More food, more water, more space. I want them out by tomorrow. But because they are such slow coaches, I have given them 1 week. By next Tuesday, we won't have a single tortoise left in this jungle. And by the following Tuesday, they were all gone. At first, the animals were sad, but then they realized that what Makara had said was true. There was more food, more water, and more space for them. But soon a strange smell began to fill the forest. It was the smell of rotting fruit on the ground, rotting animals in the river. This was what the tortoises used to eat, and even Makara had to go about holding his nose with his big claws. A month passed by, and then the same thing happened all over again. But this time it was the snakes. Makara wrote them one of his letters. They were to leave the forest, and since they could move fast, they had to go in a day. Naga, the head of snakes, pleaded for more time, but Makara would not give in. At the meeting, he silenced the others, the lizards and crocodiles, with even louder shouts and threats. Snakes are slimy, he said, and they make funny noises. Who wants such weird creatures around? Again, no one dared to disagree with Makara, and so the snakes left. For a while, the animals of the forest were happy because they had been a little afraid of the snakes. You never know when one of them might lose his temper and spit some venom at you, and it took only a little poison to kill you after all. A few weeks passed, and the animals of the forest looked tired and fed up. The rats, now that there were no snakes to eat them, the rats had taken over the forest, and they were having a wonderful time. They were everywhere, on the trees, in the grasses, in the bushes, on the ground. They ate up the eggs of lizards and crocodiles. There would be no babies, sorry, there would be no babies that year. Makara's own nest of eggs had been chewed up. Then Makara had a great idea. He called a meeting of the crocodiles and said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if we, the crocodiles, could have the whole jungle for ourselves? No one but us. Then these lizards. Now just look at them. They have the strangest habits, and some of them even change color. How can we trust someone who is green one minute, red the next? Let's get rid of them." By now the crocodiles were really scared of Makara, so they clapped and cheered. Makara was pleased. The lizards left the forest, some with their babies on their backs. But now, when life should have been wonderful for the crocodiles of Pambupati, all kinds of awful things began to happen. To begin with, the rats grew bolder by the day. They became so fearless that they jumped and turned somersaults on the crocodiles' backs. And there were too many frogs. They seemed to be growing larger, and there was no one to eat them but the crocodiles. These huge frogs began to eat the baby crocodiles and the insects. Now that the lizards were gone, there were millions of them, growing bigger and nastier by the day. It was a terrible time for the crocodiles. They couldn't understand what had happened to their happy forest home. Then one day, a squeaky little voice piped up at one of their meetings. "We know why the forest has gone crazy, don't we?" Suddenly, everyone was silent. They looked at Makara fearfully, but to their surprise, he looked nervous. He shook a rat off his tail and asked the small crocodile, "Why, little fellow?" "It all began with the tot." Okay, said Makara. "There's no need to talk so much." Makara didn't want to admit he was wrong, but it didn't matter. All the crocodiles knew now that he was not all that strong and powerful, or always right. They sent urgent messages all over the place for the tortoises, snakes, and lizards to come back to Pambupati. And what a great day it was when these creatures came back, family after family, with their little ones on their backs or straggling behind, shouting at their parents to wait for them. In 2 months, the forest was back to normal. The rats disappeared, and the insects and the smell, and the world finally went back to its familiar old self. "Well, Prem," said the old man, "have you fallen asleep? Did my story send you off to dreamland?" I shook my head. No, grandfather. I was just thinking, maybe it's time I went back to my own village because I have a story to tell them. But what if they don't listen to me? We can only keep at it, my son. Tell these stories again and again to more and more people. Some of them may laugh at you or say your stories are not true, but they may remember them one day and understand that each of us has a place in this strange, funny world of ours. The story is written by Zai Whittaker. So, with this, the story comes to an end. Now, time for some questions. 1. In what way is Pambupati different from any other village? 2. Why is Prem determined not to return to his village? 3. Why did Makara dislike tortoises, snakes, and lizards? Write a line about each. 4. What went wrong when the tortoises, snakes, and lizards left the forest? 5. Why do you think Prem wants to tell the story of the reptiles to the people of his village? 6. Do you agree that it is difficult not to go along with someone who is very strong and powerful? Express your views frankly and clearly. 7. If you were a baby crocodile, would you tell Makara that he was wrong? What would you say to convince him? Chapter number 10. A strange wrestling match. Everybody believed that Bijay Singh, the famous wrestler, was unbeatable. Vijay Singh was a bit boastful at times. Once he took it upon himself to fight a ghost. So the story begins. There was once a wrestler called Vijay Singh, a tall man with massive shoulders and muscular arms. He towered over others like a giant. Vijay Singh, people said, was born wrestler and could beat all other wrestlers in the world. This Pahalwan had but one shortcoming, which often landed him in awkward situations. He was fond of boasting. One day he was sitting in the marketplace, surrounded by several young men. After drinking many glasses of milk, he suddenly proclaimed, "Why are people afraid of ghosts? I am not. I wish I met a stout ghost. I would teach him a lesson." There were murmurs of applause as well as apprehension among the young men. "If you walk alone at night through the haunted desert," one of them said, "you are sure to meet ghosts. They roam there freely. Strange shrieks and moans can be heard all over the place. Travelers have been looted and killed. Would you really want to go there?" Vijay Singh's mighty heart missed a beat or two. Why did he have to boast? "Yes, I have heard of the haunted desert," he said nonchalantly. "I think it's just a fairy tale." "Oh no," said one of his admirers. "It's true. This place is 10 miles to the west on the road to Jaisalmer. The landmark is an ugly black rock that looks like the head of a camel. Beyond that there is nothing but sand and wilderness and of course, ghosts. Almost the entire village turned up that evening to bid farewell to Vijay Singh, who was ready to set out west. Just then an old woman came forward and thrust a small packet into his hands, and Vijay Singh started walking into the red sunset of the desert. As he walked, the night deepened. The moon was bright and the stars shone clearly in the Rajasthan sky. Still a few miles short of his destination, Vijay Singh remembered the old woman's packet. He opened it and found nothing but a lump of salt and an egg. The old woman was well known for her eccentricities. As Vijay Singh stepped into the haunted desert, he heard a voice. Vijay Singh, Vijay Singh, you will get lost in this desert. Come this way. I am your friend Natwar. At once, Vijay Singh realized it was not his friend, but a ghost. Trying to sound behave, he called back. Where are you, my dear Natwar? It's dark and I cannot see you. Come here and show me the way. Like all good wrestlers, Vijay Singh wanted to size up his enemy. Soon the ghost appeared at his side. Vijay Singh peered into his face and declared, You are just a plain lying ghost. Anyway, now I don't have to work all night. I was longing to meet you. Not used to insults, the ghost was taken aback. People generally started back in horror when they meet him. They often fainted, but here was this unfeeling creature claiming he wanted to meet a ghost. It didn't make sense. Really? I don't know why you long to meet me, the ghost said. That proves, said Vijay Singh in a bored voice, that you are a stupid ghost. The least a ghost can do is to read a man's thought. However, a worthless ghost like you is better than no ghost. The fact is, I'm tired of wrestling with men. I want to fight a ghost. The ghost was speechless. Marshalling his ghostly wits, he made an attempt to look Vijay Singh scornfully in the eye. Frankly, he said, You don't appear all that strong to me. Appearances can be deceptive, Vijay Singh said. Take your own case. You claim to be Natwar, though actually you are a rascal of a ghost. If you doubt my strength, let me give you a demonstration of it. So, with this, the story comes to an end. Now, time for some questions. 1. What was Vijay Singh's weakness? Which awkward situation did it push him into? 2. Was the old woman's gift to Vijay Singh eccentric? Why? 3. Why did Vijay Singh ask the ghost disguised as Natwar to come closer? 4. What made the ghost speechless? Why? 5. Why did Vijay Singh say appearances can be deceptive?